The movie kicks off with Johnny, a successful and incredibly charming businessman, setting out for a morning run. Despite his sophisticated appearance, he's actually a womanizer who assumes different personas to woo women, usually younger than him. Later in the day at the country club, his friend Fabio spills the beans about Johnny using 3 fake identities in a single week to meet women. Playfully retaliating, Johnny suggests maybe even his wife wants to date him. In a subsequent scene, Johnny grabs lunch with his friend Dario, who also happens to be his doctor. Dario, questioning the toll of chasing women with fake identities, advises Johnny to settle down with a mature woman, reminding him he's almost 50. Their conversation is interrupted by a call from Gianni concerning his mom. Dario hopes for a reconciliation, but learns that Johnny's mother has passed away. After the lunch, Johnny rushes to the graveyard, but mistakenly wanders into a Filipino procession, thinking it's his mom's. He quickly issues a fake apology to the family before locating the correct spot at the funeral. During the ceremony, Johnny's twin brother delivers a heartfelt goodbye, but Johnny skips his own speech. When explaining his tardiness, he inadvertently reveals a racist side by using sweeping gestures to reference Filipino people often working as maids. After the funeral, Johnny's brother hands him the keys to their mum's house. While exploring, family photos evoke emotions, and he sits in her wheelchair, turning on her old radio. As he grooves to a song, a young beauty named Alizia sneaks in, startling him. Alizia, the new neighbor, explains her experience helping handicapped folks at a nursing home. Seeing Johnny in the wheelchair, she offers to volunteer if he needs anything. Johnny, a fierce player, wasted no time in initiating his scheme. The very next day at work, a different side of him emerged as he feigned a disability. In a meeting, showcasing his ruthless business demeanor, he tore into his team, emphasizing that his sneaker company, High Speed, sells not just shoes, but a lifestyle. During this, the new intern, Julia, suggested diversifying marketing by collaborating with Paralympic athletes to connect with disabled customers. In response, Johnny scoffed, dismissing the idea, asserting that his clients were Instagram influencers, not disabled individuals who scarcely use a single pair of shoes throughout their lives. In a bid to set an example, he promptly fired Julia on the spot. With the meeting concluded, Johnny received a bag of old clothes from his assistant Luciana and hurried back to his late mother's home, exploiting his fake handicap to guilt-trip Alizia into accepting an offer for coffee in his kitchen. During their coffee conversation, Johnny discovered that Alizia was more inclined towards a fun, single life than serious relationships. Slowly, he began to realize that she was attracted to outgoing, healthy, and wealthy individuals. His entire middle-class, handicapped charade seemed to backfire. As Alizia left after coffee, Johnny saw his opportunity slipping away. Desperate, he revealed himself as the owner of High Speed, boasting 148 stores across Europe and a vast villa. Slightly taken aback, Alizia instantly changed her tune, inviting him to her country house for lunch the following Sunday. When Sunday arrived, Johnny parked far away from the address. Anticipating rain, he donned a raincoat and with great difficulty wheeled himself to the house as ominous clouds gathered overhead. Inside, he meets Alizia's family, her grandmother, who is on oxygen support, her brother, and parents. Then, Alizia's sister, Chiara, arrives in a car. He's excited by her beauty, but then sees she uses a wheelchair too. Finally, he understands why Alizia invited him, to set him up with her disabled sister and not herself. After lunch, he and Chiara chat outside. She tells him that she loves playing sports and is a professional violin player. Uninterested, but trying to be civil, he simply nods, without adding anything from his side. When Gianni gets back to Rome, he tells his friends about Chiara. His doctor friend, Dario, asks about her personality, while others ask if she's hot. He admits she's beautiful, but he's not into disabled girls. As the conversation goes on, his friend Feo challenges him to sleep with her, and Gianni accepts it with a smug grin. Meanwhile, Alessia visits his mother's home, wanting to return his raincoat. Instead, she meets his brother, who doesn't know about Gianni's lie. She tells him about his brother's charity work in Botswana and sympathizes with his disability. Johnny's brother is surprised, but continues to play along. Hearing all this, he later confronts his brother about the lie, asking him not to stoop so low. However, Gianni simply deflects the topic by making fun of his boldness. The following day, before leaving for work, he leaves a voicemail for Chiara, asking her out on a Saturday. To his surprise, Chiara pays him a visit that very morning in his office. Realizing he doesn't have a wheelchair in his office, he awkwardly sits on his desk. Chiara informs him that she can't make it on Saturday, but extends an invitation to watch her tennis tournament for disabled people later that day. Trying to impress her, he makes up a fake story about his company's support for disabled athletes. Later that afternoon, Gianni, in his wheelchair, watches Chiara play a hard-fought tennis match and is genuinely impressed. After the match, she invites him to lunch along with her disabled friends. However, the lunch doesn't go as he had hoped. Constantly bombarded by questions about his disability from her friends, he feels overwhelmed and even has a nightmare that night. In the next scene, Gianni flies to Turin, where Chiara is performing with her orchestra. He buys an electric wheelchair from a local man and grabs a balcony seat in the theatre. For the first time in his life, he is genuinely moved by classical music. After the concert, he surprises Chiara, who asks why he's in Turin. He lies about being nearby for work and dropping in on accident. Both of them then make their way to an upscale restaurant for dinner. During dinner, Gianni tries to confess that he lied to her about his disability, but at the last second, he deviates by saying that he lied about being nearby. He admits that he came here just to pursue her. However, his clumsiness with the electric wheelchair is obvious for anyone to see, as he keeps on bumping against the table throughout the conversation. After dinner, Chiara takes him to her hotel, and they share a kiss. However, she decides to put a pause on things progressing further, leaving our guy a bit disappointed. When Gianni returns from Turin, he asks Dario a curious question about whether paraplegics can have erections, already sensing where the conversation explains that indeed they can, but Chiara's pleasure depends on the location of her spinal injury. He advises Gianni to forget about the bed, reminding him that he's a 49-year-old, not a teenager. Gianni playfully brushes off the suggestion. In the next scene, Gianni invites Chiara to dinner the following day. While driving to pick up a girl he met on his morning run, Chiara has a heartfelt conversation with her sister. They share a cigarette, and Chiara expresses her happiness that Gianni sees her as a complete woman, not just someone to be pitied. The next day, Chiara visits Gianni's spacious house, effortlessly navigating around the furniture. In contrast, Gianni, in his wheelchair, bumps into things. During dinner, she asks Gianni how he ended up with paralyzed feet. Gianni fabricates a story involving a similar accident to Christopher Reeve, the Superman actor. Chiara corrects him, and Gianni humorously claims he fell off a pony. Cautiously, Chiara shares her own story of a car accident where her passenger only broke a collarbone, and her violin remained unharmed. However, she lost the use of her legs in a cruel twist of fate. To lift the somber mood, Gianni unveils his surprise, a rubber noodle. He asks Chiara to put it around her chest, clicks a button, and water floods the dining room, rising to their chests. Using the rubber noodle, they float weightlessly in the water and share a moment of passion. Later, when the water dries out, Chiara informs Gianni that she has no feeling below her legs. Visibly emotional but perplexed, Gianni reveals that he, too, only felt the sensation in his forehead. When she drifts off to sleep, he swiftly snaps a selfie of them together, eager to show off to his pals the next day. In a heartfelt talk with his son, he openly admits to being a not-so-great husband and advises Gianni not to repeat the same mistakes. Gianni, however, is afraid of losing Chiara if he reveals the truth. It's clear he's fallen for her. Their chat gets interrupted by news of a trip to a famous Catholic site in France with supposedly magical water. This gives them a wild idea. Gianni will pretend the holy water healed his fake disability to win Chiara back. On the flip side, Alessia gently suggests to her sister that Gianni might not be the best match. Their talk is cut short by a surprising call from Gianni, inviting them to join him. Curious, Alessia asks why they're going. Chiara thinks maybe Gianni wants a miracle. But in a shocking twist, Chiara confesses she knows he can walk and kept it a secret because it felt good to be loved, even if based on a lie. At the sanctuary in Notre Dame of El, Father Walter, who turns out to be Italian, asks Gianni to meet him alone. Inside, he reveals he knows Gianni isn't handicapped and warns him not to stand up in front of everyone, as it could give false hope. Undeterred, Gianni continues his act. Meanwhile, Chiara unknowingly stands in the road, and Gianni, seeing danger, stands up, pulling her to safety. She pretends it's a miracle, boards the bus, and leaves in tears. Back in Rome, Johnny's life unravels. Fabio confronts him about the affair, and Luciana resigns. Seeking solace, Johnny visits his mother's grave, expressing love for her for the first time. Johnny rehires Julia and asks her to lead the new ad campaign she had suggested earlier. This campaign features disabled athletes who are eager to see Chiara. Johnny rushes to Chiara's parents' house, where he faces her grandmother. He pours out his feelings, explaining that Chiara isn't responding to his calls. The wise old lady, however, believes Chiara is too clever to fall for someone like him, cautioning him about his intentions. Johnny admits that, although he's physically fit at 50, he's a mess mentally. He professes his love for Chiara, promising to be a better man. In his passionate outburst, he accidentally breaks a vase. The old lady reveals Chiara is taking a bus to the Manati Theatre in Spoleto, providing him with the route and timings. She warns him not to hurt Chiara again or face consequences. Johnny manages to catch up to the bus just in time. However, Chiara, refusing to be swayed, asserts her independence and ignores his pleas. In the next scene, Johnny is back in Rome, running with a heavy heart. Overwhelmed with guilt, he collapses to his knees when suddenly, Chiara on her wheelchair surprises him. She playfully mimics his earlier excuse, saying she was just passing by and happened to search for running trails in Rome. Choosing to let go of the past, Chiara embraces Johnny and gives him a ride on her lap. In the final scene, Johnny, his brother, now dating Alicia, and Chiara's family celebrate Chiara's 5th birthday together. The credits roll as Johnny carries Chiara in his arms, dancing slowly. If you like the video, please consider subscribing our channel. Thank you.